Today on the Topping Show, Matt Walsh reacts to AI wiping out jobs. An old clip of Oprah Winfrey saying that women will lose their right to vote if Trump wins goes viral yet again. Thomas Massie reposts his solution on how to solve government shutdowns. Ferrari's first EV will have 4 seats and a fake manual transmission. And Aldi pressure cooker gets recalled. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of The Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Guy says quite handsome and brilliant. He's me. See, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free Flamethrower with every IT purchase with Picatinny rail adapters to come out to any standard AR-15, like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the Flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a flamethrower. And lastly, trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button and tell your friends and your enemies, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the business part of the podcast here, Ferrari revealing some details about their first EV. It will have 4 doors and it will have a fake manual mode for all 13 people who would really appreciate that. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Jay Perez, who's a writer at thedrive.com. And he says, quote, Ferrari Electrica EV, 1,000 horsepower, 4-seater with fake manual mode. The multi-year wait to see Ferrari's first EV isn't over, but now we have a few cool, he says, cool details about Morello's next ground tour. Can't pronounce things today, apologies. And there you can see the, I guess that's a ginormous battery and some electric motors for the first EV Ferrari, which will, again, be appreciated by at least 18 prospective buyers. Now, diving into the article, again, credited to Jeff Perez over at thedrive.com. He says, quote, chances are you've forgotten that Ferrari was working on a high-performance EV. Well, how could we, I mean, it's like a nightmare. I was hoping it was a nightmare. I was trying to forget, but no, I remember. And he says, I know I kind of did, given that they've been talking about it since before the pandemic and about 35 years ago. Ferrari finally revealed more concrete details today for what's been baptized the Electrica, a high horsepower, high-tech grand tour experience, almost like an electric, I'm going to butcher, it's Italian above my pay grade. It's like electrified Pergose. Maybe, probably, not really. Now, here's some more pictures of this monstrosity. He says, quote, however, don't fear, because Ferrari hasn't quite revealed the Electra, only its drivetrain specs. We'll have to keep waiting until next year to hear the real thing. Either way, I won't wait much longer for what we do know now. Here you go, 4 electric motors, 2 on each axle with F1-derived Halbach array motors, 1,000 horsepower, 4 seats, 0 to 60 time. No, it says it. All right, 2.5 seconds 0 to 60 time, and 193 mile per hour top speed. Lame. Remember, like 30 years ago, when Ferrari made awesome cars that had over a 200 mile per hour top speed, the iconic Ferrari F40. It's a little disappointing that it didn't have a V12. I think the F50 kind of fixed that. But again, F40 still had a great engine, had a great manual transmission, a symphony of a glorious engine. And again, it iconically beat the 200 mile per hour mark. So now this new car made in 2000, well, it'll come out in 2026. It'll hit 193, which, granted, is still faster than most people will ever drive it. I can't think all 18 of these that sell will probably be in museums or someone's garage, or more likely, people will buy Ferrari. Well, it's kind of like a cult. You can only buy the best Ferraris if you buy all the crap ones. So Ferrari dealers will bully you to buy this so that you can get the chance of winning, the privilege of buying the $6 million hypercar Ferrari makes whatever year that is. And he says, quote, and again, 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. So, not to be that guy. However, the Dodge Challenger Hellcat Final Edition, whatever, 0 to 60 in 1.66 seconds. I know it's, apples to oranges, or perhaps that'd be Italian horses to American bulldogs, something to that effect. Pit bulls. There's a metaphor in there. If you squint hard enough, you'll find it. But yeah, so it's going to be a slower. Oh yeah, also Tesla's faster too. I know Ferrari's never been about the performance. Usually for the consumers, it's all about the prestige and the brand. But yeah, a little pathetic. Nevertheless, they say, quote, Ferrari's estimating around 300 to 330 miles of range from its 122 kilowatt battery and 100 volt architecture, which can charge up to 350 kilowatts. And here you see more of the interior, or not the interior, sorry. The powertrain, I suppose maybe that's a pun intended. They say, quote, "That's roughly it. Of course, Ferrari released a treasure trove of technical specs and explanations, most of which paint a picture of a highly capable machine. But then again, it's a Ferrari. What else can you expect? A few details stood out to me, including the batteries, which were assembled in-house." Oh, Jesus Christ. Assembled in-house and allegedly the most power dense in the world at 195 watt hours per kilogram. It's not a joke. So Ferrari is making their EV batteries in-house, which again, if you know anything about the history of Ferrari, in terms of what's the most unreliable crap part of the vehicle, many parts, many components, true. However, there's kind of a trend. Electronics usually are some really finicky at best. Ferrari's already known for having pretty bad reliability. It almost makes Ford look reliable in comparison. Okay, maybe it's not that bad. Ferrari has not had over 100 recalls this year like Ford has. But yeah, it's funny that they're bragging about, from a business perspective and tech perspective, it's good to have in-house technologies. It's proprietary. They made it. No one else could rip them off. But who do you think has better battery technology? Ferrari? Stellantis? General Motors? Tesla? Rimac? Or Bob in his garage? I can't help but think I would choose everyone except Ferrari. Even Bob in his garage. I can't help but think probably have more robust reliability EV components than Ferrari. Now, nevertheless, they say, quote, "The Electra will also ride the newest version of Ferrari's magical 48-volt active suspension, which was first debuted on the Prozange, and a true feat of engineering. The evolution of the suspension now lives on the F80 hypercar," which, again, the hypercars you can only buy if you get all the crap Ferraris. You gotta collect them all like Pokemon for adults and a lot more expensive. And Italian. They say the system, which has co-developed with Multimatic, ditches the anti-roll bars and employs electric motors to operate shock absorbers and adjust road conditions in real time. You can see that fancy suspension right there with the carbon ceramic brakes, which probably just one carbon ceramic brake rotor right there is worth more than my whole car. Not so much as Honda Civic SI, as much as I love her. They say, quote, "Then there's the simulated manual, which Ferrari's calling the torque shift engagement, or TSE. TSE isn't quite what you find in the spicy Hyundai N cars, which essentially fully replicates the manual transmission, but it's close. Marleno has added 5 different levels of power and torque. They're activated by paddle shifters." Now, they continued. Oh, let's see here. Oh, I love tech issues. Of course, if it wasn't for tech issues, I wouldn't have a job for, well, most of what I do for a living, so I can never be too upset when there are technical difficulties. Now, they say, quote, "When under acceleration, pulling the right paddle will unlock the next power level until the top speed is reached. When braking, pulling the left paddle simulates the effect of engine braking. Ferrari claims, per press release, TSE is designed to give the driver, quote, the time of truly savior and resulting acceleration and offering the sensation of relentless thrust." Okay, we're adults. Okay, I'll look over that. Here you see more angles of the EV Ferrari undercarriage, or the subframe suspension. They say, lastly, there's a hot topic that is EV sound. There's always a discussion on whether there should be imitating ice sounds or resemble some more spaceship, or maybe have no sound at all. And everyone seems to have different opinions. While Ferrari is going down a unique path, it appears to be D, all the above. The Electra will probably amplify the sounds emitted by the electric drivetrain, and nothing more. Instead of typing the fake V12 sounds or some cool soundtrack from its Le Mans winning 499p, it's simply doing what its ICE cars do, take the sound produced by the engine and refining it, then blasting it into the air. This is accomplished via high-precision accelerometer embedded into the rear inverter, so it translates the sounds, vibrations, and other nuances of the electric motors. Then it projects it into the cabin, though the Ferrari did not specify if the is also projected outward, aka like the Dodge Charger Daytona EV. Ferrari also did not share any specifications about the Electra's official reveal date. According to Top Gear, there are chances it might not even call the Electra. Yeah, should probably fix that. Apparently, there's a sort of working project name. In the end, we'll have to keep waiting even longer to find out more details about Ferrari's first EV. Yeah, and I can't help but think, yeah, they're going to lose money on. Oh, and actually, Ferrari charges so much for all of their stuff. They actually might make a profit on EVs, which, historically speaking, only Tesla has done. Every other company has lost money. Granted, controversially enough, you can debate because Tesla does get emissions and credit emissions and other sources of revenue. Understandable. That's a debate perhaps for another time. But Ferrari charges so much for their products, and people are willing to pay so much just because it says Ferrari on it. Maybe they make a profit on their EVs. I'm very, very, very skeptical if they could pull that seemingly impossible task off. And again, you know me. I'm an old school guy. I'm an old soul. My cars will always have 3 pedals, also known as manual transmission, a gas engine. And I can't help but think, you can buy, this would probably cost, maybe $250,000, $300,000, $400,000. If I had to get a Ferrari, which Lord knows that'd be an expensive maintenance bill, whatever Ferrari you get. I mean, shoot, for probably half the cost, I would just get and again, I know it's an apples to oranges comparison because used cars versus new cars. I can't help but think I'd rather get a Ferrari with a V12 and a stick shift like a Ferrari Testarossa, which sounds like a symphony, just glorious, as opposed to this Ferrari EV that might just go, Again, I know it's different strokes for different folks, so to say, pun moderately intended because pistons go up and down, but nevertheless, I'm pretty skeptical. And again, car companies are partially being bullied by governments to make EVs and hybrids. That's a big component of why they're manufacturing them. I do wonder if the government wasn't pushing Ferrari to do this, would they be making it at all? But yeah, the specs, they're not better than the competition. I'll be very skeptical if this is a viable business product. But as always, let me know your thoughts because I would be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the Cultural Report podcast, Matt Walsh debating AI taking away jobs. Now, it's brought to us thanks to Matt Walsh blog over on X. And he says, quote, people say that we shouldn't worry about AI wiping out jobs. The jobs will just change, they say, but the whole point of AI is to remove the human component entirely. The jobs aren't going to change. They'll just disappear. AI will make like 10 people into trillionaires. Almost everyone else will be screwed. Mass unemployment, millions of workers rendered irrelevant all at once. That's what's going to happen. Not maybe, not might. It's going to happen, and it doesn't seem like we're doing anything at all to prepare for it. And that got 1.1 million views and 19,000 likes, which that is a multi-trillion-dollar question. Is AI going to live up to all the hype? We've seen a lot of businesses this year, everything from, big behemoths like IBM, even like phone apps like Duolingo. A lot of companies have laid off millions of people saying that AI is, making them more efficient. They don't need them. Those same companies are also hiring a lot of people back because they overestimated how much AI was going to impact their business. But at the same time, you have like the CEO of Walmart. And I think it's the first time they've ever done this, saying they're not making any more additional hiring because they say AI is going to be able to be so much more efficient. So they're not firing people per se, but some of the largest employers on the planet are saying, I believe also Amazon saying, we're not hiring anyone else, which I also do think that is a variable component, or I think is partially because the economy right now is pretty slow. I think it'll be interesting to see. I actually got a little, I want to go down the rabbit hole a little bit, kind of just look at unemployment historically speaking. Now, granted, this is, sample size just from the United States, or as we call it, America, or as we pronounce it, America. That's the way, when I see it on paper, that's what I hear in my head. Maybe it's just me. But it looks like historically speaking, this starts about 1825. And just kind of scrolling through some of the highlights, I think it's as low as 3% or 2.7% in 1902, 0.8% in 1906, got skyrocketing up to 14.6% in the 40s. It goes down to 2%, 5%. On average, I would say the past 100 years, ballparking, U.S. unemployment is about 6%. I think that's kind of a good average between all of it. And the real question is, we've seen all these technological innovations for the hundreds of years in the United States and across the globe. You had the Industrial Revolution. You had that forced a lot of people that used to be, just farming on the farm, being laborers there. You also had the cotton gin, one of the most important inventions in history, made clothes a lot cheaper for everyone, and people were able to work a lot more efficiently. And throughout history, you have this mechanization, industrialization, and you would have new jobs. And you saw this, I think another big highlight was the 1970s, maybe the tail end of the 1960s and 1970s, especially the 80s with the introduction of not just AI, but back then it's more of the robotic arms, especially in the welding departments where they were welding the vehicle components together. She had a bunch of corny videos with GM made saying like, this is your buddy. And obviously the UAW, the United Auto Workers Union that represents the auto community, was viscerally against it because it moved some jobs around. Other jobs are created in terms of maintenance of those machines, programming those machines, assembling those machines. Jobs were about moved around, though. They're also outsourced into other countries. That was, I believe Roger Moore was the head of CEO of General Motors in the 1980s, who really accelerated that in order to make the company more cost efficient and try to keep up with the Japanese companies on price competitive. Well, it didn't really work. Honda, Toyota just took more market share. And the quality of GM, well, not just US made, foreign made, just continued to go down. But every single time there's a big technological innovation, the biggest fear is people be unemployed, be under the world. And we've seen, again, some ebbs and flows. Nothing's been too catastrophic. We've had economic things like the Great Depression. You have, instances throughout history where there's been higher rates of unemployment, but never to the point of people are useless or they are not able to find a new job or new task, or the new technology doesn't create a new industry in and of itself. And call me crazy, but I'm still on the fence about AI in terms of how many jobs will we realistically be displacing. I mean, you have some CEOs that are blatantly saying as much as 50% of all jobs will be gone in like 15 years because AI will just be able to do it so much more quickly and efficiently. Certainly a lot more rudimentary tasks, like a lot of things, well, not to make fun of accountants or anything like that, just when I think of industries or tasks in life that are a lot of computation, I mean, you can make the argument that when Microsoft Excel came out, that destroyed a lot of accounting jobs because it'll do a lot of that mathematical formulas for you. It used to be a ledger, back in the day, it was, it used to be back and black because, red on the ledger was negative and black was positive, physically speaking. And you could argue, yeah, Microsoft Excel took a lot of jobs away. I mean, Microsoft created millions of jobs, not just for Microsoft directly, but there are millions of companies who make money off Microsoft, not just selling the technology, which Topping, small brag out, or not brag, a shout out to my company, Topping Technologies. We don't just sell Microsoft software, but we also do services around it, make it more efficient for your company, and give you a free Flamethrower with every IT purchase. But in all seriousness, I mean, Microsoft alone created millions of people with jobs. And, well, with the stock market, I wish I should have bought the stock decades ago or at all. They also created millionaires that way, or a lot of people, successful folks, physically speaking, like that. So, like, the introduction of Microsoft created a lot more jobs as well. So it did get rid of the older jobs, but it created new jobs. With AI, interestingly enough, there are some jobs, I think it'll be very industry specific. One of the biggest ones I'm seeing is with graphical design and entertainment. And there's some silly things where I would say the simple things are already, those jobs are already moving. So in that regard, I kind of agree with Matt Walsh. One of the ones that comes to my mind personally is when I post on X and YouTube, when I tell people, hey, it's comment Saturday, I'm going to reply to everyone's comments, because usually my work, I'm too busy during the week, and I do care about the comments. I try to reply to every single one, even when YouTube hides them, which is annoying as hell. But it's an instance where I'll just go on Grok or Elon Musk AI on Twitter. I'll say, hey, make me a graphic with a cute armadillo, Texas themed sign that says, comment Saturday. And I think it's $8 per month for X Premium, whatever they call it these days. And within about 10 seconds, it'll, give me a great graphic or cute graphic. Sometimes they're almost funny because it's so bad. Like an armadillo, I think last weekend or a couple weeks ago, had like 6 legs or something like that, which in and of itself is kind of entertaining. But that's something where, years ago, I would pay my graphical artist to do for me. But it's still not precise enough to do exactly what I wanted in terms of when I actually want things that embody my company's logo and doing something that's more specific and it needs to be more professional and customer facing, so to say. That's something where I'm going to pay my guy to manually create it. And so that's an instance where some of those jobs are being displaced. So now instead of that money going to one of my guys years ago, part of that money is going to X, which I kind of rationalize because I have that to promote my business, my interview podcast, and that's a feature. I don't know if I would actually, I'd debate if I actually pay for a standalone AI tool just for those, Saturday pictures or Saturday AI generated posts. But I mean, that's an instance out of my life where I've been using AI to be slightly more efficient. And it will be interesting to see how many rudimentary tasks are eliminated. I think, unfortunately, as much as I hate AI customer service, you should call Topping Technologies. We don't have 1-800 go after yourself number. You can call an actual team member or me. And it's an instance where I think that's going to be one of the biggest ways where those jobs are truly lost. We've seen this with offshoring when it comes to like customer support for a lot of these major Fortune 500 companies. I think it's going to be accelerated more in the mid-market, maybe in SMB or small, medium businesses, where they will actually pay a company where it'll be an AI chatbot or it'll be AI on the phone. And for simple questions that will solve 80% of customer issues, the computer will take care of that. And we've seen a little bit of this with the chat box. That trend, I think, started really to accelerate about 24 months ago. So again, those jobs are being displaced, and newer jobs being created for the software development and the maintenance of those AI chatbots. Unfortunately, a lot of those jobs are in the tech country of India. I mean, that is one of the biggest, that is the capital for outsourcing, especially for IT jobs. So you're seeing a lot of those jobs outsourced. So Matt's saying these jobs will be eliminated. I think they'll be eliminated to a certain extent, but I think there will be a lot more work, but it'll be outside of our country, unfortunately. I think that's going to be the big trend. So I think maybe 10 to 20% jobs will be completely eliminated. Maybe another 30% will be offshored to those companies. And I'm certainly concerned because, again, a lot of people, a lot of communists will say, we need UBI or universal basic income. Just pay people not to do anything. They'll be happy. We saw this with the pandemic. Absolutely not. I mean, people, especially men, they correlate a high satisfaction in life to a purpose, and more often than not, that is associated with a career and providing for yourself or for your family, your wife, and your kids. And just giving someone a check, they're never as happy as people who actually work for it. So just giving people free money, while it might, like a drug, it'll feel good at first, long term, I think it does more damage than good. So it's very concerning, and I do wonder how many jobs and how quickly could they be lost versus offshored or moved around. We're also seeing robotics being introduced into everyday workforce, or in a place like Walmart, they're using it to scan inventory, as well as perform services like, mopping floors. Even at a QT gas station, I saw that recently. And those are jobs that, again, those are eliminated. Perhaps in those examples, Amazon, or Walmart or QT, they used to have a direct employee who would do those tasks. Now they have a robot where, well, someone sold them the robot. Someone has a maintenance plan for the robot. Someone's refilling the fluids on the robot in terms of, say, washing unit or something like that. That's creating different jobs. Now, I know that's kind of going more into robotics versus AI. I think there's a lot of parallels, though. So, I mean, even my business is, we work with large and small companies. We're seeing AI do a lot in those areas. And unfortunately, I think some jobs will be displaced. So let me know in the comments. I'd be absolutely interested to hear what you have to say, especially depending on your industry. It'd be very fascinating. Now, one of the first comments, again, Matt got 1.1 million views and 19,000 likes. And also, on a quick note, in terms of irony, I can't but think one of the biggest jobs that'll be replaced, especially in the next 24 months, will be media jobs. I mean, it's an instance where you already have AI-generated videos where the amount of innovation or the increase in quality we've seen in the past just 3 years alone has been astronomical. And if you have, now you just need a big sample size in order to replicate someone's voice or their visual video. Now you need less and less data with with the AI and the generative images they'll be having, the videos they'll be having. It's not all around possibility where Matt Walsh, again, with his huge archive of materials, they could upload that to a machine. He has a lot of the consistent morals and values that he espouses, and the machine can react with to new subjects with his background of opinions and probably formulate a pretty articulate take on what he would say to the new topics. And the really question for media is, will the consumer actually accept it? Will they like it? Right now, most do not. I have a couple of friends who work in advertising, and I have a couple of friends who work in analytics with videographers. And they've done tests where they'll have all those influencer gals like, oh yeah, I want to sell you this lip balm. Whatever idiots are buying these days. Obviously, I don't spend much on beauty products, but it's an instance where right now Americans especially don't like the AI videos. They don't appeal to them. They don't trust it. And again, it's a computer. Obviously, you should never trust a computer. I mean, Sarah Connor told us that. But nevertheless, in all seriousness, right now it's not working. But every single day, the images are getting better quality. You could obviously, one of the biggest takes or one of the biggest ways you can tell the fakes is, or if it's AI generated, is the lip movements. But it'll get better and better. And it will get to a point, I believe, very soon in our lifetime, maybe even 12 to 24 months, where it'll be imperceptible and no one will be able to tell the difference. That's when things get really scary, especially with, just one bad video of a CEO could tank a company's stock, and it could be a lot of people buying that stock and making money. It is going to get crazy, and I don't think it's going to be good. Now, again, apologize for the ADHD. Going to the top comments, the conservative alternative says, quote, I believe the age of AI will produce a new wave of neo-Amish communities, basically just people who opt out of the new system and create their own communities. We still use technology, but not AI. It'll be interesting to see how this develops, getting 257 likes. Yeah, but then you have Bill Gates buying up pretty much all the farmland in the United States. I'm only partially exaggerating, but it's one of those instances where a lot of people are making fun of modern society, comparing it to The Matrix. Exceptional film, by the way, aged quite appropriately. And the real question is, like, in the movie, people are forced into the machines. And I don't think people are going to be begging to get in. Kind of like the Elon Musk neurochip. They're going to have such a productivity advantage to the people who don't have it. People are just going to opt in for it, unfortunately. Read memes, or memes as I like to jokingly call them, have a picture has a picture of a Terminator holding a guy. And Terminator goes, "Wait, not him. He always thanked us. Free him." And it's a screenshot of a ChatGPT. It says 10 years ago, "Jared, great answer. Thank you." Getting 825 likes. A hair of Christendom has AI and it says another Indian. Getting 26 likes, which, yeah. That was an instance, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago, where Amazon claimed, "We got a magical store, all cameras, no credit card, just walk in, and the magical AI will know exactly what you took off the shelf, and then we'll charge you later." And it leaked a little while later, just a bunch of guys in India watching the cameras, which, yeah, that's kind of funny. Scrolling down more and more. Sean Hendricks says, "AI can't do this." And it's just a picture of cows. Getting 197 likes, which, not to be a contrarian to your statement, Sean. However, yeah, AI in farming is already a thing. AI, robotics in farming is especially a thing. And they're actually doing it more efficiently than humans. I mean, one of the most successful agricultural companies in history is John Deere. And yeah, it's to the point where it depends what type of, I'm just going to say tractor, keep it simple, or combine. I'll be fancy today. But it's an instance where those machineries, it used to be a farmer would have to sit in there, drive, steer it with the steering wheel, which, yeah, that's redundant grammar, not the best today. But it's an instance where just their AI analytics and, just geomapping, they'll actually drive themselves and will do it in the most efficient path possible. And the driver's really just there in some states for a legal reason. In other states, the farmer just wants to, be there as fail safe. A lot of the farmers just sitting there watching iPads. Again, that's not to disrespect their work. That's just showing how much AI is impacting the agricultural industry. You also have machines that will plant the seeds more efficiently. In terms of maybe he's insinuating they can't make a picture like that. Well, that's certainly not the case. Going down more and more, you have David Brady Jr. saying, quote, "Don't you think people said the same thing about the automobile?" Getting 238 likes. Which, again, throughout history, that has been a very common sentiment, saying this new technology is going to destroy everything. But historically speaking, and again, that's why I'm somewhat skeptical with AI, because again, historically speaking, for 200 years, there's been new technologies that have revolutionized entire industries. And again, with the automobile, that did eviscerate, that destroyed, I believe, the only company that successfully transitioned from horse carriages to automobiles is Oldsmobile. And I believe that was the only one that actually successfully transitioned to the automobile industry. All the other carriage manufacturers, I guess you had Fisher Body, which made, the bodies of the horse carriages. They then made bodies for General Motors. But a lot of the traditional companies did, they no longer existed. And nowadays only rich people with ranches have horses. Let's run down more and more. Let's see. David Crass has a picture of Sarah Connor. It says, quote, "Sarah Connor watching us use AI for everything." And she looks pissed, getting 59 likes. You also have Ted French says, quote, "And there's no point in letting millions of immigrants into your country when AI will take their job soon enough," getting 474 likes. What's this? Guillermo El Conquistador says, quote, "Just keep digging, Matt." And it's a tombstone that says Matt Walsh's career, getting 5 likes, which, again, I still think for my maybe 10 years, I think people still want real people for their media. We'll see, though. Supreme says, quote, "Let me know when AI starts designing and building houses and doing all things related necessary, never-ending maintenance work. Until then, we always have jobs for people," getting 83 likes. AI machinery, a lot of tools are having tech built into them and AI built into them. He's right, though. We'll see if Elon's magical robot takes over that anytime soon. Banner Brothers says, "And when those trillionaires have an army of drones to stop any unrest, what happens?" Terminator, getting 137 likes. Let's see. Daniel says, "AI is more of a bubble than an existential threat right now. Your premise is incorrect, and in the short term to midterm," getting 41 likes. But we'll see what happens with AI. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have Oprah saying that if you don't vote for her, Kamala, you're going to lose the right to vote forever, going viral yet again. Brought to us thanks to and wokeness. And he says, quote, "1 year ago, Oprah declared women will lose their right to vote if Donald Trump wins. Updates?" It's Oprah Winfrey. I forgot how much Kamala bribed her to do this. But here's her speaking at the podium.
"Sit this one out. We don't get to sit this one out. If we don't show up tomorrow, it is entirely possible that we will not have the opportunity to ever cast a ballot again.
I was going to say, it's got to be really easy to be a Democrat. All you have to do is copy paste like 99% of your policies and talking points. Oh, no, the policies actually become much more radical. They're talking points like this. Why have we been saying this for like 15 years now? And of course, Republicans always say the same thing. Republicans and Democrats, this is the most important election of our lifetime. And unfortunately, because, Americans keep giving the government more and more power, to a certain extent, that is true. Now, this went pretty well. I got 3.4 million views and 48,000 likes. And it's also a friendly reminder, Kamala Harris spent over $1 billion to still lose in every state that, well, interestingly enough, she only won in states that do not check voter ID. And then I think all but one of her winning states was that. I'm sure it's just coincidence, of course. Now, going to the comments, one of the first ones comes to us thanks to Paul Zupa. His quote says, quote, wasn't Oprah paid millions to endorse Kamala, getting 2.2 thousand likes? Or if they have a specific amount there. Nick simply says yes, getting 8 likes. Let's see. You also have Amelia Henderson says, quote, funny. It's funny how it works. It says praise for questioning election, praise for questioning election, praise for questioning election. It says indicted for questioning election. They had Hillary Clinton, then the big gal from Georgia. Then you got Trump being 822 likes. Stacey Abrams. I'm sorry, I should put a visual disclaimer on the screen because you can see her now, as well as Hillary Clinton. Oh, I should say for the record, Hillary Clinton is a beautiful, intelligent woman, has not had a disproportionate amount of people around her commit suicide, like 28 people plus, and I don't own any rope and I plan to live a long, healthy life. Just coincidentally, I want to throw that out there, just for the record. You also have David Santa Clara saying, quote, unfortunately, women can still vote. It's a picture of this Patrick, what was that American Psycho movie? I forget the actor is Christian Bale. It says, Gene, I can't do a Christian good. Well, I can do a Christian Bale impression. I was about to say I can't do a good one. I'll make an attempt. So, Gene, cast my 3 p.m. It's the base department. It's over. Getting 295 likes. Liberty Pill Meme says this her. It's just a bunch of pictures with Oprah and with Diddy, Bill Cosby. Was it Harvey Weinstein? Getting 144 likes. Gunther Eagleman says, quote, and they're still voting, getting 262 likes. The conservative alternative says, quote, Democrats have anything substantial to offer to voters, so all they can do is fearmonger about how Trump is a dictator. It's sad if it wasn't so dangerous, getting 130 likes. Which, yeah, it'll be, of course, whoever replaces Trump for the presidential nominee next time around, they're just going to do the same thing, compare him, say he's the worst thing since Hitler. They're going to say he's 10 times worse than Trump. Yeah, they do it every time. God and Country says, this picture of Oprah Winfrey and Kamala Harris says, paid $2 million to rent Oprah and lost. And you have Trump with a dump truck and says, put a sticker on a garbage truck and won. Getting 722 likes, 24 likes. There you go. Mr. Patel says, quote, no country can survive being ruled by people who hate it. There's a picture of all the Democrats getting 367 likes. Let's see. You also have Joey FAFO saying, quote, they arrested a United States president 4 times while he was running for office. And now they're having a meltdown because a few illegal aliens were finally getting deported. Getting 237 likes. Yep. Flip-flop. Though it's not an actual flip-flop. It's a gentleman in the picture. It says, quote, well, it's a meme or meme of Oprah. It says, Oprah Winfrey's private jet was at Epstein's Island 11 different times. Whatever happened to all the girls that got kidnapped from her school in Africa? Getting 381 likes. That's a fair question. Also had May says, come on, President Trump, don't let Oprah down. Getting 562 likes. Let's see. You also have Corey Bachard. It says, alternatively low IQ people should lose their right to vote. Getting 137 likes. You also have a lot of memes of Oprah saying, you're a fascist and you're a fascist. Yeah. And again, I think the old school legacy of these big celebrities are losing more and more their allure or their impact on folks. Well, at least people who have a moderate amount of intellect. So I think, call me crazy, but I think next presidential election, all these endorsements for celebrities, I think they're going to matter less and less for, again, people with a modicum of intelligence. But let me know your thoughts because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the political part podcast, you have an old video of Thomas Massie suggesting how to solve government shutdowns. And it's probably just going to play the first minute or two. He actually reposted this saying, quote, here's my solution to the shutdown. Passed 12 separate bills. I made this video in 2018 when Schumer did the same thing he's doing last week. It's really worth a watch because some things never change. Well, the color of my hair changed, but that's about it. Which, yeah, and he has no beard, which I can't help but think 99% of men look better with the beard. It's just a thing. It's funny to see him without it, but nevertheless, watch him for a minute or two here, and he's suited up like all gentlemen should.
Hi, this is Congressman Thomas Massie from Kentucky. We're going to try a little schoolhouse rock today. I'm in the middle of a government shutdown here, and I want to talk about why that happened, why it didn't used to happen, how we keep it from happening. Because I think this is legislative malpractice, what you're witnessing in the Senate and the House. And let me talk about that. In 1974, Congress passed something called the Congressional Budget Act. It says that we should pass 12 separate appropriations bills. That's important. And I'm going to talk about why it's important to do 12 separate bills instead of one giant bill. You've heard of these giant bills before. Sometimes they call it an omnibus. Sometimes they call it continuing resolution, CR for short. Folks, that ain't normal. What we're supposed to do is pass 12 separate bills. When you put all of the government funding in one bill, when you put all your eggs in one basket, somebody can take that hostage, any faction of government. It could be the Freedom Caucus, for instance, who are good friends of mine. But today, what we're witnessing is that the Democrats in the Senate have taken government hostage. But we enabled them to do it by putting all the bills together. Senator Schumer has a demand, along with...
He has a cartoon or six figure of a Schumer. He's got a gun, and it looks like maybe a bottle of whiskey, which Schumer would never be that masculine to have a bottle of whiskey or a firearm. This is a loser where when Chuck Schumer was trying to relate to the common man, he had raw hamburgers on a grill with a bun on it, pretending like he was a chef, which shows you how disconnected Chuck Schumer is to reality or the common man. He did not know even how to grill a burger. And I'm no chef. Truth be told, this will probably cringe a lot of people who are chefs in the audience. I mostly use a microwave when I'm making my meals, which of course is an abomination in the chef industry or the cooking industry. But yeah, Chuck Schumer had the raw hamburger patty on a bun, like insinuating he just got done cooking it. That's Chuck Schumer.
Senator Durbin. He says, I want DACA. And I'm keeping all of government hostage until I get DACA. Well, if we would have done our jobs back before September 30th, which was the actual deadline, and passed 12 separate appropriations bills and sent them to the Senate, we wouldn't be in this position. Let's talk about what those 12 separate bills are. Some of them are very non-controversial. They've passed in the House before, and I've voted for them. The first one that's not very controversial, as you can imagine, is the legislative branch. This is the bill that funds Congress and the Library of Congress. And within that are all the senators and representatives' salaries and their staff's salaries. How many senators and representatives do you really think aren't going to vote to pay themselves? Not very many. So when this bill comes to the floor, and it has in the House, I don't know that it ever has in the Senate, it passes. And this hostage moves over here. Ledge branch. Let me talk quickly about some of the other hostages that are in the room today that don't need to be in the room. CJS, this is an appropriations bill. It stands for Commerce, Justice, and Science. So this funds the Department of Commerce, which is constitutional. It has the Patent Office in it, for instance. The Justice Department, look, we want to be holding court, right? And the judges don't collect their own taxes, so Congress has to fund that as well. And then science, that's got NASA in it. That's a fairly non-controversial bill. And when it comes up for a vote in the House, it passes too. So this is CJS. What are some of the other ones that can make it out of the room easily with a bipartisan majority? Well, there's a bill here that funds the Department of Energy and the Army Corps of Engineers. Now, Most Republicans aren't big fans of the Department of Energy. That was started by Jimmy Carter in the late 70s. But everybody's a fan of infrastructure. For instance, the Army Corps of Engineers maintains the dams and the ports, and some of these dams keep the water that may be providing your municipal water supply to your city. So this is a bill that usually passes, or could pass easily, with a bipartisan majority. What I'm saying is, if they bring it up in the Senate, it would get 60 votes easily, because I've seen it, you get a majority here in the House, a large majority. So let's put this one over here. That's the DOE and the Army Corps. What are some other ones? We've got financial services, and D.C. That's right, there's an appropriations bill to fund Washington, D.C. because it's not a state, it's a federal city. Well, guess what? 90+% of Washington, D.C. is Democrat. So the Democrats are going to vote for the bill that funds Washington, D.C. And financial services has to do with banking. Republicans aren't going to go back to their banker friends and say, oh, I'm sorry I didn't get the financial services bill passed. So that one's going to make it out of the room, too. See how easy this is? I'm telling you, the 60-vote rule is not a problem in the Senate with these bills. All right, who else do we have over here that can make it out? The VA. There is a bill dedicated to funding the VA. Which Republican or Democrat is going to go back home and say, you know what, I didn't think we should fund the VA, so I voted against the bill to fund the VA? The answer is none. Yeah. I have seen this bill pass the House of Representatives on its own with every member. We're not talking about getting to 218. We get to 435. And this isn't a day that you don't want to be here, because you want to have your name on that VA bill. Oh, yeah. So,
I mean, yeah, and I would argue that's also an issue because the VA, if you ever talk to a veteran, usually not very efficient or good for them. Yeah, I would think the private sector would be more efficient in helping veterans. Well, granted, the bar is so low, but nevertheless, yeah, you're not going to miss that day to vote on that bill for your competitor or political competitor or opponent to say, oh yeah, Bobby said no to the veterans. I mean, no, we already know most people do not read it beyond headlines. Yeah, they'd be toast, politically speaking.
The VA bill passes. And we've got the defense bill here. Now, Republicans and Democrats do argue, and independents, about how much we should be spending at the Department of Defense. But nobody is going to go to the floor and say we shouldn't pay our soldiers today. In fact, there have been proposals during the shutdown to pass this bill so that soldiers will get paid.
Yep.
I think we should pass this bill. I think we should bring it up on its own. And when we do, after all the wrangling is done about how much we're going to spend on bombers and how much on aircraft carriers and paying for the soldiers' salaries, the defense bill makes it.
Yeah, but realistically, kind of a thing. Yeah, but before they vote on that, they all buy Lockheed Martin stock. Yeah, remember, most politicians are absorbently rich, not because of the salary they get, which I would argue they already get paid too much as is. It's like $185K per year, plus healthcare benefits. Ridiculous. But yeah, overwhelming majority of them, they're rich because of the stock market and buying stuff before they pass bills that impact those industries and those companies.
Over here.
And again, Republicans and Democrats do that.
If it's voted on by itself. Okay, now we're getting to just a few bills in here that are harder to pass. One is called, I don't make these names, they were here before I got here, affectionately called THUD, one of the appropriations bills. It stands for Transportation and HUD. Now, again, this is like the bill that funds the Department of Energy and the Army Corps of Engineers. It's got some stuff that Democrats like, HUD, but it's also got transportation in it. And everybody likes transportation infrastructure. That's one of the legitimate roles of the government.
Well, I mean, I can't help but think every time I go to any state in the U.S., I mean, I can't help but think there's a lot of potholes despite us paying so much in taxes.
So we can get THUD passed too. Transportation and HUD. By the way, folks, I've never voted for an omnibus, and I've never voted for a CR. But most of these bills that I put on this side of the fence, I have voted for, and they get bipartisan majorities very easily in the House. Who do we have left over here? We've got the Interior and Environment. Well, this bill, its primary function is to fund the EPA. Okay, you've got another bill over here that funds the Department of Labor.
Cut it. Cut it. Make America shift again. Let's get some V12 engines and stick shifts. I'm only partially exaggerating.
Labor, education, we want to call that EDU.
Was it $7 trillion we've spent on the Department of Education? And test scores keep going lower and lower and lower. But I digress.
And HHS. That's the regulatory authority that tells you what healthcare you can and can't buy. A lot of Democrat priorities in here, in this bill. A lot of Democrat priorities in this bill. You've also got Homeland Security. I'm just going to put Homeland Security. That could pass. That could, but there's a lot of discussion about immigration and funding our protection of our borders. If you're going to build a wall, it's going to be in this bill. So that is a contentious bill. I'm not going to say it makes it out of the room easily. You've also got USDA and the FDA over here. These are the folks that tell you how to farm, what you can eat, what medical devices you're allowed to use. This is regulatory authority here.
How many people want to cut that right now?
There are also some farm subsidies in this bill as well. So these are the types of bills you got. You've also got a bill here that funds the State Department and foreign aid. I'm just going to call it foreign aid for now. Foreign aid. Okay, can you imagine if we had done at least part of our job, if we had done 7/12 of our job, if we had passed all the bills that Republicans and Democrats agree to, passed all the bills that can get 60 votes in the Senate. Today, Chuck Schumer and Dick Durbin and the other folks over there in the Senate would be demanding that we pass DACA, or else they're going to shut down the EPA, or shut down the FDA, or shut down foreign aid, or
Shut down the EPA. Oh no, don't do that.
shut down the Department of Education. How ridiculous is that? They couldn't get away with it. So by reducing the number of hostages in the room, you reduce the leverage of any faction of government here. Whether
I can't help but keep laughing at such a stick figure of Chuck Schumer, but he printed out Chuck Schumer's face. Looks like he's got an AK-47 and a bottle of whiskey.
as in the case today, is Chuck Schumer, or whether that would be the Freedom Caucus at some point. And if the government did shut down as it has today, what would, these things, soldiers would be getting paid, claims would be getting processed at the VA, transportation would keep going on, HUD applications would be processed, NASA would still be funded, the rocket scientists could still go to work, DC would be funded, the Army Corps projects wouldn't slow down. All that stuff would be funded, even if somebody's having a little temper tantrum over here, like it's been going on for 3 days. So, just to close this out, what do we need to do to keep this from happening again? Because, folks, the answer today, the big, brilliant solution they came up with, was to fund the government with an all-inclusive bill for 3 more weeks. We're going to be in the same position 3 weeks from now. So the answer is to pass these bills separately. The law tells us to, the 1974 law. Let me talk a little bit about the why. Why don't they do it this way?
Cowards.
Because it makes so much sense. They don't like to do it this way because when you debate all of these bills, it gives the membership a lot more power and the leadership has less power. When you put everything in one giant bill called an omnibus bill, that gives the leadership, and let's say that's 4 people in the Senate and 4 people in the House, the power to do what they want behind closed doors. Then they come out from behind the closed doors and tell the membership, that would include me, you've got to vote for this bill today. We're not going to give you time to read it. Yeah, we know it's 2,000 pages long, and and we know you're tired and you've got, but we want to pass this tomorrow. And if you don't,
that should be illegal. And again, people on the left as well as the right, as individuals, have voiced their concerns throughout this. It is utter crap. It's like giving someone a multi-page contract and saying you need to sign it right here, right now, otherwise you can't get the job, or otherwise you can't get this project. It's ridiculous. Now, kind of tying back to the theme earlier in this episode, talking about AI, thankfully AI can ingest a lot of these big bills and give you kind of a summary. But again, then you're kind of outsourcing some of your, you have to trust that AI machine. And these days, I don't trust any of those AI machines to be unbiased. But yeah, they're passing these bills without reading them. One of the most famous idiotic sayings, well, also from an idiot, was Nancy Pelosi saying, we need to pass the Obamacare Act so we can read it. Yeah, these people aren't doing their jobs. They're just signing blindly, which I'm sure makes every lawyer in the audience cringe that these politicians, I guess there's no ramifications for them. They just get reelected and get more money. But yeah, like it's a bill thicker than a dictionary, which might age me because I actually used a physical dictionary growing up. But nevertheless, yeah, sign that bill right there and then. Ridiculous. That should be illegal.
vote for it, you're going to have to go home and explain to your constituents, many of whom like these things over here, why you shut down the government. That's a very powerful message that the leadership gives to rank and file members here. And most rank and file members end up voting for the all-inclusive bill. By the way, sometimes they throw extra hostages in the room like they did today. The child health care program, CHIP, was in the room today, and so was the medical device tax, something that Republicans want to get rid of. But there's another reason why this happens up here, and this has been disappointing to me. Some of my colleagues would rather just take one vote, because it's pretty messy when they go on the record and start voting for all of these bills and all of the amendments that have to do with crafting these bills. Now they could be held accountable for being for something or against something. Whereas if they're presented with a choice at the end of the year, or as in this case 3 or 4 times in the year as the crises come up, if they're presented with a choice that says vote for this and the government stays open, or vote against it and the government will shut down, they can go back home and say, you know what, I felt like even though I don't want to fund foreign aid, and I don't want to fund the war on drugs, and I don't want to fund another war in the Middle East, and I don't want to fund this welfare program or X, Y, and Z, you name it. They say, you know what, but I didn't have a choice. It was all in that one bill, so I had to vote for it. That absolves them of accountability, and it makes it easier for them to get reelected. What we need to do is we need to get back to 12 appropriations bills, because we're going to be in the same situation, if not in 3 weeks, then in 3 months, or at the end of this fiscal year. So tell your congressman, tell anybody you know that works in Washington, D.C., get back to doing your job. Do 12 separate appropriations bills so we can see what you're doing, and so you don't hold government hostage ever again. Thank you very much.
I figure I might as well watch the whole video, as he actually teaches more than any public school in the United States. Granted, that bar is pretty goddamn low these days. But yeah, most politicians left and right are, I would argue, lazy. I would say they're lazy cowards. And again, Republicans and Democrats both do these big omnibus bills. And I mean, even the big beautiful bill, which I like some parts of it, like getting the NFA tax down from $200 to $0, but well, should have been done away with completely. But nevertheless, every one of these politicians, all the incentive is for them to keep doing this. They're like an irresponsible child with their homework, waiting till the last minute, and they go, "Oh no, we're freaking out! Now we have to do a yes or no vote." It's not like these bills and these continuing resolutions and these budgeting timeframes. It's not like they're a random pop quiz. They know about this for weeks or months in advance, or years in advance. It's ridiculous. And Thomas Massie hit the nail on the head. The incentive mechanism is all there for them to keep doing it, because it's almost like a gang. Everyone gets one. Everyone gets one little thing in that bill. They can all go back to the constituents and goes, hey, my local constituents, I know you hate A, B, and C. But that was the other side of the cloud. They put that in there. I fought for you. I got this one thing. Really, all they did was show up to work and say, oh yeah, I'll say yes, because you gave me that one thing. I mean, this is not sustainable, obviously. I mean, Thomas Massie made this video years ago, and lo and behold, we're in the same situation. More shutdowns, more continuing resolutions, more passing bills without reading them, and all these omnibus bills with a bunch of crap in there that I mostly don't read, and it just gets more and more pathetic and ridiculous. And why do they change? I mean, politicians make like $200,000 a year plus, well, legally. Then they make their insider trading, which is ridiculous in and of itself. But yeah, it's 30. We got 37 trillion in debt, folks. It's only getting bigger. So I'm very skeptical because again, there's no incentive. There's not really incentive for politicians to do the right thing anymore. You could argue there hasn't been for years. And the fact that they could all just show up to work and say, "Oh yeah, well, yes or no" on these big giant BS bills is ridiculous. I think there should be a law that says every single topic, everything should be one bill, one topic per bill. Stop shoving all this crap in there. Now, they might complain because then they have to show up and work more than a couple days a year. Okay, I'm like partially exaggerating. They go to work more than one day a year, but yeah, they have to be a lot better at their job, and they'd be held accountable because then the constituents, everyone would know they have a path of voting yes or no on hundreds of things, as opposed to once per year or twice per year they vote, oh yeah, yay or nay, and they're all going to vote yay for the most part because yeah, they could all say they got that one thing for their local constituents. Now, go in the comments again. This went moderately viral, got about 500,000 views and 18,000 likes. One of the first ones comes to us thanks to Mr. Exeter saying, quote, "It must be exhausting to deal with these people," getting 25 likes. Thomas Massey has a gif of a guy saying it's also tiresome, getting 63 likes. Feeling Great says, "Wisdom comes with maturity. Update on your." And Thomas Massey says, quote, I have about 40% of the range of motion in my thumb. It's heavily scarred on top, but I'm thankful it's still there. The nail is coming back slowly and weird, but I'm told it'll become normal over the time. My hand modeling days are over. Thanks for asking." I guess he got an injury a while back, getting 178 likes. My Beatrice letter says, "How do you draw your background?" Getting 105 likes. Or it says, "Did you draw your background?" It says, "Of course," getting 397. Let's make it 398 likes. Amelia Henderson says, quote, "The Democrat Party is not a political party. They are a domestic terrorist organization masquerading as a political party to bring down America," getting 108 likes. Saji Zeza Eterna says, quote, Congressman Massey is committing the cardinal sin of the swamp. He is proposing a transparent and logical solution to a crisis who the uniparty leadership finds immensely profitable. The shutdown/omnibus cycle is a feature, not a bug. It is a biennial ritual of fiscal blackmail designed to consolidate power in the hands of a few leaders and their lobbyist benefactors. The 1,000-page monstrosity is a vehicle for a poison pill and pork that could never survive the scrutiny of individual debate. They have no interest in governing. They are interested in ruling by emergency. That's a good point, getting 157 likes. Agree. You have Lancer saying, quote, "The problem with Thomas Massey is that we don't have 534 more of him in Congress," getting 256 likes. Unconscious but breathing says, quote, "Remember when Democrats voted to fine us if we don't have health insurance, then gave it to illegal immigrants for free?" Getting 181 likes. Oh yeah. Another one has Ethan has a repost of Thomas Massey post from a while back. It says, "Why don't you trust the government?" It says, "Me, it's Thomas Massey holding up the Epstein files that are like all redacted," getting 151 likes. What's it? Enemy of the State says, "Here's my solution to the shutdown. Keep it shut down," getting 197 likes. Luke says, "So the majority of our Republican representatives would rather fund the Democrats' lunatic programs than be held accountable for what they support in these bills. Sounds like our system of government works flawlessly for the government." Getting 48. Let's make it 49 likes. Yep. Aaron says, hashtag Representative Thomas Massey, "Can we add a single bill that ends all surveillance programs and also bans the collection of consumer data, metadata, etc. that can be held or sold to third-party advertisers and go back to actually having the Fourth Amendment again?" I would ask my Congressman Representative Rutherford, but the guy hasn't held a town hall since he won in 2016. That's pathetic. So I'm assuming he's just hiding in his mom's basement during the government shutdown. It's obvious the government is spying on itself and spying on us. Seems to be the easy solution to that problem that the government created. If we are so worried about privacy, we could just, I don't know, focus on making privacy great again, getting 30 likes, which, yeah, I support his idea. That'd be great if we had privacy again. However, even if the government passed a bill, I mean, when was the last time someone in the government was held accountable or got more than a slap on the wrist? When Republicans or Democrats are in power, I can't see a trend of politicians very, very, very rarely ever actually going to jail or ever facing more than a couple $1,000 fee or fine. Let's see. Janice says, quote, or as a comic strip or a comic of a guy and a gal, a guy goes, what should we do with people who rely on government handouts but are too lazy to work? And she says, kick them out of Congress, getting 134 likes. Dave Barnes says, but unfortunately you are no smarter than you were back then. Ding, ding, 10 likes. Protect the Third says, yet still smarter than most of Congress. Sardonic Realist says, nice sentence structure, David. Getting 2 makes it 3 likes. They had one contrarian statement, had to do a little bit of dicking there. But yeah, unfortunately, our government needs to change because obviously we're $37 trillion in debt, thanks to Democrats and Republicans. But I can't help but think it's not going to get better anytime soon. But let me know your thoughts because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now going over to the business blunder of the day of Aldi recalling a pressure cooker because it, might just burn folks. Now this is brought to us thanks to the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, perhaps the only useful government website, granted, pretty low bar. And they say, quote, Tempo USA recalls Abano electric pressure cookers due to serious burn hazard. Multiple burn injuries reported, sold at, Aldi. This comes after, a couple weeks ago, Aldi recalled, or a product at Aldi, their cotton candy maker was recalled because it had, issues that could hurt people. And again, I also am doing the business blunder on this individual business, but for the second time, these businesses are so small, no one's going to remember their name. They're going to remember Aldi. This isn't like a major kitchen appliance company that people would recognize. So, and I'm, Aldi, you're getting a ding here. Also, whatever you put in your store, you have top quality, you should do some quality assurance. But nevertheless, again, they say, quote, the hazard is the pressure cooker lid can be opened before sufficient steam pressure has been released, causing hot contents to escape and pose a risk of burn injuries to consumers. It's going to affect 46,660 units, and the remedy is going to be a refund. There you can see the two variants of the pressure cooker. Now, they say, quote, it looks like, unfortunately, no, they did not get ahead of the recall in this situation. The firm has received 11 reports of incidents in which the contents were expelled under pressure, including 8 reports of severe burn injuries. They're sold at Aldi stores between January 2016 and December 2019 for about $40. Manufactured by Tempo International, and it says manufactured in China. They say consumers should immediately stop using the recalled pressure cookers and contact Tempo or Aldi for a refund. Consumers can either return the fully intact pressure cooker to any Aldi retail location for a full refund or submit a photo of the pressure cooker with the unplugged power cord cut and the photo showing the model number and date code via email to serviceusa@tempo.org. And again, the model numbers that this affects, and again, you flip over the label and see it, can be KY318B, KY318A, and 6LPC. And yeah, they say the brand Ambiano is on the front of the pressure cooker, which again, and I'm not a cooking aficionado. I appreciate good cooking, but I know Vitamix is a great blender. I know that much because I use it. But yeah, I don't think anyone's ever heard of this company name. Although if you have, let me know in the comments. I gotta say, Aldi, you and Abbiano pressure cookers, I gotta say, you are certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback. Let me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone, everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.